silent on the issue of child rape, and then in 2008, the Supreme Court said that was unconstitutional as well, violating the Eighth Amendment, which really pissed me off, especially for those that have read the details of the case. It was pretty hard to stomach. And I can get where some people are about the whole eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, but at the same time, I personally would value my life not very much if I take somebody else's life. I mean, that's just how I look at it. On the topic of how it's implemented, I have to agree with anybody who says, all right, if we're going to be putting people to death, we got to make sure it's being done right. 100% agree. I've heard of states that have put moratoriums on the death penalty, like Colorado, Oregon, I think it was Washington State as well, Pennsylvania. Even though these states have not executed people, some in over a decade and a half, going on 2, and some in a little less than a decade or something, haven't executed people in a while. They're not really trying to put anyone to death as of currently. My state is not under a moratorium, but it sure as hell feels like it. So, and I've heard of people, as I had a debate with with a person on capital punishment, saying that justice is affected by his favorite word, capitalism. But I mean, and actually, I forgot to. I'm going to ask you this: under anarcho-capitalism, would the death penalty survive, or since anarcho-capitalism for the abolition of the state, who exactly is going to be the one to put the inmate to death? Of course, it's in the privatized prison and everything, but that's just in general. I'm just wondering.
Sorry, so under ANCAP, who would put people to death? Is that? Sorry, that's the question.
Yeah, a little bit who would like, obviously the executioner, but like in the privatized prison. So it would just happen in the privatized prison, I'm assuming.
So this is dependent on how the whole situation is set up. It depends on the entire structure of the system, what it ends up being but ideally, it would work out something like this. So somebody commits a crime against someone else, right?
Yeah.
So the people who get the ultimate decision are the victims of said crime. So you rob from me. So I'm going with a lesser crime to try to set up the scenario. So you rob from me. We go to court. I can prove that you robbed from me. Now the judge would just determine who was in the wrong and who was in the right. And then the person who was wronged, they would get to specify, what they would like to do in order to make amends. And then the judge would have to see, okay, based on the severity of the crime, what you're suggesting as far as the form of punishment, that is agreeable by the courts and that sort of thing. So that's how you would administrate that sort of thing. So that's to keep people from like, oh, well, you stole my rabbit, and so now you're gonna, now you're indebted to me for the next 30 years. It's because the court will ultimately get a say in that, but it has to be something that the victim agrees to, because this is something I see with the current criminal justice system right now, is if you steal something from me and it goes to court and you get found guilty, you go to jail and you go to prison, what do I get back? I get nothing. I just wasted my time sitting in court trying to prove that you were guilty, and you go to jail, because this is legitimately something that happened to me. Is I had about $5,000 of stuff stolen from me, and I think we've covered this in previous streams, but I have $5,000 worth of stuff stolen from me. I went to court. I never actually got to court over that. Because I was moving to Washington when that trial was going on. But I did have to go down to the police station. I did have to go with the detective to the pawn shop where my stuff was being stolen to identify it and be like, yeah, that's the stuff that was stolen from my storage unit, and that was used as evidence against this person. I still haven't gotten anything that the police collected all this evidence. That was my stuff that was stolen. I still have yet to see any of that back. The person is now in jail because this was a third time offense, and this was for over this grand larceny. So I think he is in jail for 10 years and can get parole. But in the meantime, I got compensated from my renter's insurance, But the criminal justice system didn't do anything for me. It helped me prevent other people from... It helped... So this guy is no longer out there stealing stuff from other people and no longer being a criminal. But I lost on the whole exchange. I got a portion of my stuff back, and that's, because of what was covered by the renter's insurance, and that's it. So under an anarcho-capitalist system, the victim has to be compensated for the damages done. That's the entire point of justice, is to right the wrong. Putting the person away is, you stop them from committing those crimes again, but you're not rectifying the situation with the victim. That's why in most cases, civil courts are much better at that sort of thing. And in an anarcho-capitalist society, it would be more based on civil courts, where, like in a civil court, you wrong me, so you steal from me, I take you to civil court, I sue you for damages, the judge rules in my favor, and they'll specify, whatever I was seeking in the civil court, which I was seeking this much in damages, and this much on top of that for the for the trial and for the stress and all that, whatever other type. The court can say, okay, whatever you're asking is too much. We'll trim it down. Hey, this is more fair, and then they will rule on that. But in the end, the victims, or the victims who brought it to the civil court, get to choose whether that's satisfactory to them, because they're the ones who set the original demand. It's, hey, I'm suing you, and this is how much I'm seeking. So under an anarcho-capitalist, that would be a similar type system. Now, when you apply that to the death sentence, it comes up to the victims determining what is the, setting boundaries on what they think is the right punishment. And in some cases, they may just be like, kill the guy, get this guy out of our society, we want nothing else. Or they could choose to have him be imprisoned and have him work off his debt. Like, okay, you killed somebody, this is a beloved family member, they were providing for our family, they were providing, they're the primary breadwinner for our family, and you've taken him out of our family, so you can never bring back that person, but you can do something in order to in order to rectify some of the loss that we've incurred. But the judge would look at that and be like, okay, well, this is too harsh of a penalty for this guy, or this is too much of a penalty. Yeah. So the judges and courts would kind of, they would be they would be the judges in that situation, and they would actually determine what is within the realm of reasonability. So it's not like but in this way, the person who did the offense actually gets, true justice, because the only reason they were found guilty is because there was enough evidence to convict them in court. And there's no reason why they couldn't have a jury of peers and all that sort of thing to validate whether guilty or not. It's not just an arbitrator. It's not just a judge who makes that ultimate determination. There's various setups. It's so when you enter in the court system, the defendant and the what's the other word? The prosecutor? No, that's normally
the defense attorney.
No, that's criminal courts. Civil court, it's the plaintiff and the defendant.
Plaintiff.
The word I was looking for. Yeah, the plaintiff. So before the court case starts, both plaintiff and defendant have to agree to the terms of that judgment. So they can decide whether it should be a jury or whether there should just be a judge, and then both sides will agree before the case ever goes to court that they will abide by the decisions of the court. So in the case of the victims or whatever, because it could be a false report, so they could sue somebody without the actual evidence, and that person is like, oh yeah, hey, I was completely innocent the entire time, that's what I've been telling you, I've got enough evidence on my side, those people made a false claim, now I can countersue, and that sort of thing. So ultimately, both parties would have to agree to that they would abide by the court's decisions before the court makes their decision, because both sides thinks they're going to win. So that's why they would abide by the decision. Both sides are like, hey, the court's going to rule in my favor, and they want to stack the deck as much in their favor as possible. So they're going to, if it makes more sense for the victims, they'll be like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get a jury because a jury is going to side with me because I've got enough evidence to put this guy away that it was definitely him. And likewise, the defendant is like, well, I'm going to want a jury because odds are, I can try to convince some of them, get, appeal to their emotions, get them on my side, make them think that this is all circumstantial. So, and then the jury decides whatever based on the evidence.
Yeah.
And then, so I mean, it's
yeah.
Hopefully I'm not making it too complicated, but
no.
So ultimately, once a verdict of guilty on a murder case is taking place in anarcho-capitalism, and the victim is seeking the death penalty, the people who would actually carry it out would be the prison system, because that would be a private security system, and that would be a service that they would offer in that, because their responsibility is providing the punishment that the courts that the courts rule.
Yeah.
Right.
We also have
long-winded answer. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh no, you're fine. I don't mind long-winded answers, considering that it did answer a few questions. I mean, I'm still thinking it over personally, whether or not I identify as an ANCAP. So I'm thinking, okay, if we're like, how would that be handled? So there's a good answer. I've considered asking communists and socialists, regardless of whether they're in favor of it, how it would work there or under anarcho-communism and socialism, but that's probably for another time. With the whole in my last capital punishment debate I had, we discussed the ethics of the idea of putting someone to death for a crime. I went over the common arguments like, the person who committed the crime doesn't understand the impact that they left on the person's family, things like that. And it was with the same person that is an ex-libertarian, which I know that blows your mind.
Yeah, that's completely bizarre to me. I don't know how you ever could.
He's like a left libertarian. He was like a right-wing libertarian. Now he's like a left libertarian, but not like a communist or socialist. He proposed, like, when it comes to juries and everything, because me and him had a stream on libertarianism. We did discuss about the juries that like professional juries, like because some people act like complete idiots with how they handle the law.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So that's the other thing is.
He's in the chat.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, you can send him the link if you
man.
want. But if
sure.
the court systems were entirely privatized, like right now we're kind of fixed into what kinds of courts you can go to. It's whatever kinds of courts are defined by the law. But if we had a completely free market when it comes to privatized courts, you could see a bunch of different different setups for courts. Like some courts where they just pull in random people off the streets to do jury duty, and they could be a flock of idiots. 12 people who don't know their butt from their from their front.
Yeah, I mean, some of them don't understand any legal terms.
Yeah, don't understand the legal process. Yeah.
It's so I could actually completely agree with him that I do believe in the idea of professional juries.
Yeah.
I do believe that it does cause. It would probably solve a lot of the problems when it comes to probably jury bias and things like that. Yeah. I do believe when it comes to the idea of how it's handled, I do believe. And I did answer this in the capital punishment debate I had with Milner Man, who might join us, I don't know. But me and him did discuss, and I threw out the idea of if the defendant asks for something to be tested, like DNA evidence or something like that, that the state would automatically do it. I don't believe the state would have necessarily a reason to refuse that, and it would probably make their job a little easier just to just do it, considering the fact that if they were to refuse, it would make the case, it would strengthen the argument of, oh, I'm innocent, and you're just refusing to, you're about to kill me, and it just looks suspicious if you just don't, and if you believe your case is so strong and solid, then it would probably be a good idea just to test it. I mean, personally, huh?
Oh, sorry. I was started my stream kind of halfway through, so because I was setting up OBS and making sure that, because I'm trying to get the live chats to show in the stream, so they look pretty good. Sorry. And,
Yeah.
and apparently the audio
and
started playing in the background. I was like, oh. There's got
yeah.
to be a way I can set this up so that way it's always the same each week. But for some reason, every time I log into OBS, all my windows are kind of jacked up, and I've got to reset them.
OBS is a sadist. I tried using it, and it's a total piece of shit. So I just use iSpring Recorder, even though you can't stream on it or have a window like a face cam thing. iSpring works for me. I mean, the cunts at OBS with Windows 7. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah.
When we were talking about with a free market when it comes to the court systems, you very much could have the court systems that are very much exactly the same as they are today, but you could have court systems with professional juries and with dedicated people that test the evidence. So they can have a specific firm that, hey, if you want, this specific court hires out to this firm, and this firm has a really good reputation, this court has a really good reputation, and those are the courts that are more likely to see, more of the more higher profile cases. Because because it is the court's job to provide the best service to the people, and this is something I see with the current system. If the court screws up, what happens to the court? What is their incentive to get things right? What is their incentive to do the right thing by the victim or the defendant? Like, right now, I don't see anything. If they get it wrong, they're like, oh well, I got it wrong. Too bad. That there doesn't seem to be any kind of give or take. There's no incentive to be a good judge who always gets the right thing and because, like, what's her name? Sotomayor, right? For the Supreme Court. Like,
that's her.
If you look at her track record, how many times did her verdicts get overruled by the next court above her? It's abysmal. It is. Like,
an alcoholic as well. I
don't know about that, but I just know that if most of the cases that she ruled on get appealed to a higher court, and that higher court is like, oh no, they completely overturn it. So it's not like it was something ridiculous, like 80% of the cases or something like that had gone to a higher court got overturned, and you're like, that means that she's bad at her job, and she still became, like, she's in the Supreme Court right now, right? Like, right?
I think she is. Sonia Sotomayor.
Yeah, but when they were vetting her case or whatever, people are pointing out she's got a bad track record, and yet that didn't hurt her in the long run. Now she's in the highest court possible, and you're like, this person has a bad track record of judging adequately. If she did have a good track record, the higher courts wouldn't overturn her cases so often.
Yeah, okay. So I'm looking into this, and it says she's been serving in the Supreme Court of the United States since August of 2009. So she's so she's been in there. She's been there for over 8 years now, and and if it were up to me, she would not be there, considering how abysmal her track record is.
Yeah,
I mean, that says a lot.
It was kind of weird.
When a lot of
yeah, because when they were going to nominate her to the Supreme Court, people were getting lost in all these things like, oh, is she a lesbian? Or are they alleging she's a lesbian? And is she have all this other problem? and all of that was nonsense. Who cares about all that? The issue is she a good justice or not? And people were like,
that to me is my only concern. And like, my only interest is, like, I don't care if you're gay or not. That doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
If you're a terrible judge or you're terrible at your job, that's all. Then you should be out. Other than that, couldn't care less.
Yeah.
And
so
everything.
It like her track record. I mean, I'm overemphasizing that, but I'm pretty sure it was somewhere between 70 and 80% of the cases that were appealed got overturned at a higher court. And you're like, that doesn't speak volumes for her ability to judge a situation if throughout her history more judges disagree with her.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to have like, when it comes to the whole with the courts and their track record, I do believe that especially one of the problems is considering how many people we got in death row. I don't know what state you're in, but my state, we have 9 people in death row. Some of them have been there for over 30 years.
Oh, that's the part that doesn't make any sense to me, is why it takes so long for a person. I mean, I know appeals delay it and all that sort of thing, and There's all kinds of things that this person on death row can do to prolong it, as long as they're trying to provide new evidence. But once it's kind of said and done, like what else can they do? It still takes.
Yeah.
It still can take 5 years before they ever see the needle, and you're just like, why? This person. I mean, you've. There's no new evidence being provided. They can't appeal at this point. You've rendered the verdict of guilty, and that they should be guilty enough that they should be condemned to death. Why is it still taking 5 years to get from that point to the needle? To me, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it also has something to do with the backlog of cases. For instance, in the state of California, which has only done 13 executions in 25 years, and hasn't done one in over a decade now, they have 740 or 50 people condemned to death. It's due to the overzealous use of imposing the death penalty. As much as it would be nice to be putting those people to death and everything, as long as we can ensure their guilt and everything. I mean, 700 death sentences since they reinstated it in the late 70s. My state was the first state to carry out the death penalty under the new guidelines that the Supreme Court kind of set in stone, with a guy who wanted to die, and he was a piece of shit himself, so there was no missing him, Gary Gilmore, and they made a movie about it. As for the whole, I think it's not asking very much for anyone to say we want reform what am I saying? They want the death penalty to be reformed. I don't think it's asking very much to demand reform to it. If we're going to do it, if we're going to have a system where the state is putting somebody's death, I don't think anyone's asking for too much to ensure that it's being done correctly and efficiently and things like that.
Yeah, well, I would say in most of these guys' cases, the needle is a little too good for them. So,
yeah. For instance, when 9/11, when 9/11 happened, a lot of people were some people were saying, don't even pro-death penalty people, and I could agree with them when they say this, do not give these people the death penalty, because that's something they would want. So sometimes, even though it would be nice to send some of these bastards to death row, it's giving them what they want. Yeah. And letting them rot in prison is the ultimate payback in some cases. And in other cases, death is something they do fear. So I guess it depends on their attitude about it. If they're like, oh, I did this so I can get the death penalty. You have to. I think it's the only option you got is to completely spur their desire of death and put them in prison for the rest of their lives. There was a case where someone was on death row and threatened to sue the state. He's now dead in my state. He threatened to sue the state of Utah if they didn't execute him. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? As much as it'd be nice for him to just die, what? It's not necessarily a legal right to die in it.
Else. Yeah, that's pretty funny. And so part of me is like, well, then get rid of him, get that guy out of here. But then the other part is like, well, then is he really getting punished? So
yeah, I mean, if someone decides this is a waste of time, or they've given up and they're like, I'm just dropping my appeals, and they're not like, please kill me, but they're like, I don't care anymore if you kill me or not. Then all right, I guess proceed to the execution. But if they're making such a big fuss out of it, it's like I kind of want to do the kind of like a Streisand effect, if you want to call it that, or just to spite them and keep them alive. I would also take into consideration if somebody says to me, if I was the prosecutor, right? Let's say your brother was murdered, sinister, and let's say you were to say to me, as much as this has affected me and my family, we don't want our brother's name. We don't want this person to be executed in the name of that relative. I don't think it's an unreasonable request for the prosecutor to fulfill. I mean, I
think in most cases the prosecutor will defer to the victim's family on whether whether they should just be see prison in life, or whether they should actually go seek the death penalty. So I think they talk to the victim's family prior to seeking the death penalty.
And in some cases they overrule that, which, I mean, even though in some cases I don't blame them, in others I'm like, as much as I might personally disagree with their views on the death penalty, I still think it's the right thing to do to defer to what they want. which I don't know what your thoughts are when it comes to the whole expanding it beyond murder. I don't think we should be putting people to death for like robbery or arson. I don't even think it's legally to do that on the federal level, but on the state level, it's not. In some states, I don't know if the laws have been overturned, but like putting a bomb near a bus terminal is a federal. It could be a federal death penalty, or it might be a state death penalty offense in Missouri, for instance. I'm fine with putting rapists to death, as long as they're proven guilty, of course. And evidence has shown that, yes, this person has committed the crime, then I'm fine with sex criminals being put to death. Other than that, I would just stick it to the crime of murder. Max Slate, which is Milner Man's friend here, says, so you're pro-suffering. I don't know if he's referring to me. Well, I mean, if it makes me pro-suffering to have inmates be executed, then call me pro-suffering. I mean...
It's the what is justice? That is more of the case. Is it justice to give somebody what they want when they want to die after, like here's a, holy crap, my nose is bleeding, awesome, fun times. Okay, so this is the guy who just did the thing in New York, right? The guy who killed 8 people in a truck. Man.
Cole Ham punched him in the face, everybody, after their debate. Anyway, you're saying.
Okay, so he is probably going to be pretty happy, like, even though Donald Trump said, yeah, we should seek the death penalty and all that sort of thing. That's exactly what the guy kind of wants right now, right?
Yeah. And also, it's like, I do believe people should understand, like, the state laws and everything, because in New York State, their death penalty was ruled unconstitutional, so even if Donald Trump can say all he wants, they should pursue the death penalty. Unless this is federally tried, then there's no way the state of New York can legally execute the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, federally it's applied to all 50 states. In the military, it's the same thing, but they haven't executed anybody since it was reinstated, which is kind of disappointing. But I mean, I'm not entirely well versed on the military's death penalty, more on the state and somewhat federal level.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of any cases that I would be like, oh, why didn't they use the death penalty? The only 2 cases is the Abu Dhabi thing, right? With the that was Abu Dhabi, right? Where they were mistreating the prisoners and all that sort of thing.
I think so. There was a military case.
Yeah, maybe it was Abu Ghraib. No. I think Abu Dhabi was the prison where they were stripping them naked and making them do all kinds of weird stuff. That was kind of like, okay, I get that they're prisoners, but treating them that way was was over the line, but I don't know if that's grievous enough to warrant the death penalty for the people who, who perpetrated that. And the only other instances are wrongful death situations, where, but I don't know if the death penalty should be sought for that. And most of that stuff wasn't even military; that was Blackwater, firing on civilians and stuff along those lines. So technically not under the military where they can be tried.
Yeah, there was a case in the military, actually, where this guy was tried in the state of North Carolina for the crime of 3 counts of murder. He was sentenced to death. It was overturned. He was tried again. He was acquitted, and everyone thought jeopardy had protected him. So if he was the murderer, he got away with it. But they found a loophole in the system, apparently, where he could be actually tried in the military because he was active at the time. So even though he was retired, they said they reinstated him as active and tried him in the military.
What?
Yeah. Which apparently it's completely illegal. He was the first man to be tried for the 3rd time for a crime which he was first convicted, then acquitted, and now he was convicted in about like 2010, I think it was, for those crimes under the military's jurisdiction, and he was sentenced to death for it. Which, I mean, even though the crime is pretty fucking horrible, and I read up on the what it was, I will admit it is a bit questionable about even trying him for the 3rd time. But I mean, if it's legal, then I guess I'm all right with it. But it is extremely questionable. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
He's like one of 6 people on the military's death row, and like under George W. Bush, they would have started it again, but of course, the appeals court with how the states and the federal system are very much overzealously pursuing the death penalty. Like, some states have like a major hard-on for the death penalty, like Texas. Yeah. No disrespect to anyone in Texas, but holy shit, 500 executions in 3 decades is quite a bit. Yeah. So basically,
hard to imagine that many people doing crimes heinous enough to warrant the death penalty.
Yeah, I mean,
that's something that when you're looking at the overall crime statistics, the amount of people who commit crimes, like while you know, every time they're like, oh yeah, the amount of gun deaths in the United States, and they're talking about the amount of rape cases and all that sort of thing. If you look at the overall crime statistics, the amount of people who commit crime, it's somewhere around 1% to 2%. It is ridiculously low for how large the United States is. And even though the crime stats are fairly high, a lot of the times it's multiple offenders. It's the same guy, you know, getting released and then doing a crime and then going back to jail and then getting released and, you know, doing a crime.
Yeah.
So if you look at the overall amount of people who do crime, it is really, really low.
Yeah.
So then if you're talking about the amount of people of that 1% to 2% that commit crime that deserve the death penalty, I mean, 500 seems really, really high out of that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Wait a minute. So 1% of the United States would be 300,000, right?
Yeah, I believe so. All right, the case I'm referring to, I just looked it up. Timothy B. Hennis. It was in the 80s, and then, it was pretty hard to believe. I didn't even think it was legally possible, but apparently, oh shit. Anyway, apparently it is totally possible. All right, so Mueller Man, I asked him if he wanted to join. He wants his buddy to join on the discussion. Mueller Man, I sent you a link on Twitter, so if you want to send your buddy the invite, there you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I did consider posting it in the chat, but I'm pretty wary about how that would go. I mean, there's not very many people in the chat. There's, you know, I'm just gonna take a risk because I'm one of those people. But anyway, yeah, there's
1% of 300 million is 3%, not 300,000. So wow, actually that's 3 million. That seems like a lot of people who are committing crimes. But I mean, not all of those are. A lot of those are white collar crimes, and you know, a whole like 80% of the people in jail right now are for drug abuse. You know, whether selling, possession, or use. You know, DUIs, DWIs, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a.
So there's two. There's 2 other people on death row. So I don't know what case you were referring to, but one, Hassan Karim Akbar, he committed multiple murders using a hand grenade and shooting of 2 commissioned officers and 11 other servicemen in Kuwait in 2003. So I have no sympathy for him. Nidal, I don't know these people's names, to be honest. Malik Hassan. This was for the Fort Hood shooting in 2009.
Oh, I thought the Fort Hood shooting guy shot himself, but I didn't realize he was still alive.
Yeah, he's been on death row for like 4 years now, according to from what I found. And to be honest, I mean, I remember just reading these and like, I just could not find myself like showing any sympathy towards those that do that. Like,
Well, the Fort Hood guy, right? Wasn't that a case of Islamic terrorist, or was that just something else?
But, let me see.
I can't imagine why that guy is so. If he's on death row, you would think that they would just like, hey, why bother keeping this guy here for longer than he needs? We know this is the guy who did it. Like, so
I guess due process. I mean, even though it's like, what is there to appeal? Like, I don't understand that.
They've already had the due process. Everybody knows that guy's the guy who did it. It's pretty cut and dry. I would say the only reason to hold it off would be if he was seeking a martyr's death. Well, killing him by accident, you know, with a lethal injection, that kind of gives him the martyr's death he was after. Whereas if you let him stew in prison and then let him screw up and let him, you know, do something where he's like, aha, you just voided your martyr's death. No chance that you're gonna get your 72 virgins now. And then now you can go straight. Well, now we'll escort you to the death penalty.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking into this a little further now. They recommended he be dismissed from the service. A jury panel of 13 officers. This is how the military works about it. Is it's quite different from our regular courts.
Yeah.
They recommended he would be dismissed from the service and sentenced to death. He's in Fort Leavenworth.
Yep.
It was apparently the Army decided not to charge him with terrorism, which was pretty damn controversial. Opposition of military. The motive was opposition of military deployment and jihadism. So you were kind of correct there. And apparently a lot of his views were actually described as anti-American, which it doesn't make sense if you're anti-American to be in the military in the U.S. military in the first place. But it doesn't really make sense to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know how that guy got through, and maybe he was radicalized after he was in. So. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I think that's actually the case in his case.
Yeah.
And he got praise from Islamic extremists, unsurprisingly.
Yeah. So and that's why I'm a little I'm not sure of whether I agree with Donald Trump on whether the guy in New York should get the death penalty or not. Because I've said before that my resistance to the death penalty is entirely that we could get it wrong. It is not the morality of the situation, but it is the procedural, bureaucracy that's inevitability. The incompetence of bureaucracy that's inherent.
Yeah.
So the guy in New York, we know that it's definitely him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way we got this wrong because he was at this is the dude. He was there. He was doing this. You caught red-handed. As cut and dry as possible. That's the sort of case that should be streamlined, and then you're like, yes, this is a guy who definitely deserves to die. The question isn't that what he wants? So when you're trying to get justice and you're trying to have a punishment that fits the crime, giving the guy what he wants isn't a punishment. That's So you're trying to come up with a punishment that would. Maybe life in prison would be the ultimate punishment for this guy because he wants to die and have his martyr's death.
Yeah, there's also so I don't know about what your view is on this end of the death penalty. Some people, whether they're pro or against, do complain about the methods that are used. I mean, for me personally, I don't think lethal injection is very effective. I don't really buy the electric chair. The gas chamber is effective. I would if I were in the shoes of an inmate, I would prefer what my state does, and that is the firing squad, as I do view it as more humane, no pun intended, and I do view it to be more. There's only been 3 cases of where that my state has executed in the nation as well, where someone was executed with the firing squad, and there were no reports of it being botched. The last time it was botched in general was over a century and a half ago, but that's because the weapons at the time were pretty poor. The electric chair, the gas chamber have had reports of botched executions. They've been declared unconstitutional by federal and state courts. Lethal injection has had the same thing happen in California and Florida and other states, and it's creating such a such a difficult problem when it comes to 1 drug, 2 drugs, 3 drugs. It's creating such a headache. The fact that states are still trying to have lethal injection is idiotic. I mean, if anything, it would save you the time and money to either choose hanging or the firing squad.
Yeah, well, hanging can kind of be pretty brutal, because most of the time the person, the intent is that their neck will snap immediately, but most of the time the person doesn't have their neck snap and then suffocates to death. Or they'll have their neck snap and then it doesn't kill them and then they'll suffocate to death. Yeah, but at least nobody's recommending crucifixion or having what's death by fire ants or stoning.
That's why
a lot of brutal forms of the death sentence. But yeah, I think the firing squad. I think I would be okay with that one.
I mean, I think it'd be probably a better idea than hanging. I mean, if I had to choose between the electric chair and chair and hanging, I'd choose hanging, as I view it I viewed it to a point of where it seems that some of these methods are literally just the only purpose is to degrade the person that you're executing, and I don't believe that's for the punishment. I do believe that if we're going to be executing people, we got to do it very fast. In one instance,
like there are other, like, maybe flash freezing or cremation, like because that's not burning someone at the stake. That is an instant. Hey, this person. So I mean, you're talking about putting them in a fire so hot, it's near instantaneous, and they don't have to worry about body disposal. But
Yeah, that's why I did.
There might be issues with that being, if it's not hot enough when you dump somebody in there, and then they're so that could be really that could be really
that's
terrible.
The problem with the
as
electric
well.
chair.
Yeah,
with the electric chair.
The electric chair,
it's like I don't get that.
I don't know why anybody ever thought that was a good idea, as far as a way of
in the 1880s. They thought it was more humane than hanging, no pun intended again. And never it was first tried in New York, and the last time it happened in the U.S. is in Virginia, Virginia and Alabama. You have to be sentenced before a certain date, and that's the case with a lot of these states. Is you have to be sentenced before a certain date, or if the state doesn't have the drugs for the execution, they'll use a different method. That's how my state is, unless the state doesn't have the drugs for it, if you were sentenced before a certain date. That's how they do it.
So how does your state actually implement the firing squad? So is it just a group of people that kind of make a half circle? Well, not a half circle, I guess.
Here's how it goes.
Or do they stand in a line and fire? Like, how does that?
Okay. So in the state of Utah, what happens is they'll have a cement wall, because it used to be literally, I think, in a shed, and that's how they used to do it. But then now today, it's in. What they'll do is they'll have 5 men, or people that are obviously hidden from the viewers of the execution. They have 30-30 rifles. All have blanks except for one has the actual bullet, right? Mm-hmm. And they have their rifles are sticking out of the wall. And they have a person sitting in a chair. Their face is covered, but I think they do have the option to have their face showing. But I think only, like, all 3 times that it's happened, it was all with hood on. And I would want the hood on so I don't, like, get blasted in the face or whatever. But they aim it at the chest, and they'll fire on a count, and that's pretty much how it goes. It hasn't been botched or anything.
There's only one real bullet.
Yeah, so nobody knows who was the one who actually fired the fatal shot.
Yeah, how do they know that one bullet will kill the person? Like, that's what I'm not sure about.
It's all aimed at the heart.
Okay, so all the rifles are aimed in the exact same spot. So the person doesn't get to adjust or okay.
Yeah, they are all aimed. There was actually a method in Nevada where they'd have someone pull a lever on a gun, but that just seems like way too risky. That, like, people could potentially get shot and die when they're not the ones to be executed. But so the 5-man firing squad method in some countries it's 3 men, but in Utah it's 5, and we're the only state that's done it in the last 40 years. So pretty much the rundown of it. Oklahoma can do it too, but under really limited circumstances.
All right.
But I don't know what state you're in, but I don't know if your state has the death penalty.
Oh, I haven't even checked, so I have no idea.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, like, what state it is, because I can look it up.
Yeah, I can look it up as well. So Washington, I am.
Washington State.
I would say probably they do have the death penalty. I would say.
Yeah.
I would think probably not, because this state is blue as crap.
What?
A whole bunch of hippies out in Seattle.
My state is pretty controlled by has a lot of Mormons and Republicans in it, and conservatives. Which, the state of Washington does have the death penalty. They were the state that had a guy who was a really perverted piece of shit who actually was who basically, I think he actually said that it was to protect children or something, that he wanted to die or something. Which, I mean, I'm not going to complain when it comes to him, but like, to protect kids and that the pedophiles can't be cured. It's like, that's probably the only smart thing that guy ever said. And and only like 2 states have hanged people since the last 20 years. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that has bothered me for a while. So I mean, I know this is a completely different subject, but when this is something that a lot of these magazines and a lot of these people are starting to push and trying to champion this movement of the poor pedophiles and all that sort of thing. Those people are. If you are at the position where you need to fulfill your desires or whatever and commit pedophilia, why wouldn't you just kill yourself? Like, what? You're like, oh, well, we got to catch them beforehand before they commit something wrong. If they are at the point where they're going to commit something that heinous, like, like, hey, I'm going to ruin this person's life, and they're going to, like, what? At that, if you ever got to that point, wouldn't you just be like, oh, well, I'm at the position where if somebody doesn't stop me, I'm definitely gonna rape this kid. That's when you put the gun in your mouth and you pull the trigger. That is.
I
right?
personally think. I personally am. I actually made a video a while ago called "Kill All Pedophiles," and a pro pedophile group used that video, which is hilariously cringeworthy. But either way, I am in favor of encouraging pedophiles to end their lives. I know I might sound like a sociopath or some shit like that.
It's like if it comes down to me or a kid. Well, then I'm gonna go. That's the better choice of the situation. So it shows the kind of demented mindset of a pedophile who's like, well, if it's me or the kid, well, I guess I have to go through with this and I have to rape this kid because I can't control myself. And I'm like, you can go buy a gun and you can shoot yourself. And then no kids were raped in the process, or some other method of killing yourself, but.
Well, there's a good method. It's called going to a victim shelter and admitting what your problem is and let them beat you to death. There's that option too. Oh. But I mean, I guess putting a gun in your mouth is just if you're a square, that's the method you can go with. But, I mean, there's actually a thing, and I would argue with people, and then I realized I was wasting my time. Is where they would say, it's a sexual orientation, you evil bigot, and I'm like, no, it's not.
If it's a sexual orientation where the only way to fulfill it is to rape someone, then. Well,
it's not a sexual orientation.
It's not a valid sexual orientation, and if you're of that position, it's torture to live. It's better for you to end yourself than for you to scar some other kid some kid for the rest of their life. That sort of thing. It is a completely bizarre perspective to say, oh well, if we don't help them, they're gonna have no choice but to rape. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're going to have no choice. That's the only option they have is to ruin someone else's life? Really?
It's insane.
What kind of monstrous mentality do you have? It's like, well, I can't control myself, so I have to ruin someone else's life. You're like, well, then if you can't control yourself, then end yourself.
Yeah. I mean, with the whole idea, like, there were people actually suggesting that pedophilia is... They would call it pedosexuality, which is bullshit. And they'd say, it's a part of the LGBT community, and they'd have this long fucking acronym.
They're trying to make it a part of that, which is scary.
I mean, the fact that they're expanding the acronym is borderline retarded, but the fact they're including pedophilia in it just makes it even more retarded. I mean, like, I know people like to say it's ableist, but fuck off. Like seriously. Like, it never made sense to me. And anybody who says that, like,
I did a series of videos talking about the LGBT plus blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't understand why it goes past the B. Like, okay, lesbians, okay, sure, gays, sure, bisexual, I can understand that. Transsexual, wait a minute, one of these is not like the others. Why is this a part of that community? And in my series of videos, I broke down it in arguments, and I'm like, transsexuals. Their belief and their mentality is directly contradictory to everything that the LGBT community is fighting for. They should be at ends. They should be fighting each other because one group says, I was born this way and I'm proud of it and I've got to embrace it. And the other one is like, I was born this way and I got to change it with surgery. And you're like, how are these two groups working together? One is saying the way I was born is how things have to be, and the other one's saying the way I was born is I'm not accepting it. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna go through drastic measures to make sure that this is changed.
Biologically, trans women are biologically male, so it's like it's like, and this whole woman with a penis thing is bullshit. That's oxymoronic. That's like me saying I am a satanic Christian. That just doesn't make sense. And I mean in general, like, I mean, sure, I don't mind referring to a transsexual woman as a woman. Fine, no problem. Max Slate is Mjolnirman's buddy. If you want, so what's your opinion on capital punishment? Since we did get a little off topic, so What's your thoughts on capital punishment?
There it goes.
Is that? I don't know if that's Max Slate. Is that you? Like, do you have some headphones you can put on?
On capital punishment. Let's be honest here, man. If somebody murdered, raped, sodomized your children, would you have the balls to fucking murder the dude in cold blood?
Yes, I personally would. I mean, if I know that this is gonna. I'm not trying to be all high and mighty or anything, but I'd have no problem putting.
There we go.
I'd have no problem putting a being one of those men at the firing squad to put a bullet in a motherfucker's chest for the fact they had killed somebody that I know and loved. I personally have no problem with it, and Mjolnir Man is with us. The Master Stoner. I'm kidding. So Mjolnir Man here is against the death penalty. I forgot to... Yeah, okay, I'm going to increase your volume a little bit. I forgot to ask Mjolnir Man, what was his transitioning stage from being pro to anti-capital punishment?
So I'm not comfortable with the fact that the state has the right to murder somebody. I feel like if you're for the life and liberty and pursuit of happiness, like, why is the state taking life from you, dude? I don't think it's ethical for the state to. I mean, the only way it can be done is if someone personally affected by it kills them. Other than that, it can't be done.
Yeah, you might not want to touch your mic because it'll cause a bit of a rippling effect. But anyway, so I do believe that. I mean, like, I do believe the state does have a right to get involved. If you're taking somebody's life, like, and I do know I raised this point with Mjolnir Man, the ex-libertarian that Humane Mind had completely was triggered by.
Triggered? Oh, come on, man. No, it's just perplexed by that position.
Yeah.
I don't know how, once you've seen the right way to be, how you could fall out of it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Mjolnir Man is an ex-right-wing libertarian, but I think he's a left-wing libertarian now, so he's not
accurate.
Okay, so you're not an ex-libertarian. Okay, that's what was confusing me. I was like, wait a minute. So it's like having the truth and rejecting it for the lie. And you're like, why would you ever do that?
I mean, like, I've always been sympathetical to their social message, but as time progressed, I just wasn't in line with the fiscal message. That is.
Okay. So you does that mean that you are communistic or more socialistic in your?
I would say more socialistic, not more communist by any means, but
okay,
probably a bit more socialistic. Yeah.
Okay. See, that's a position I can kind of understand. That's a position I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But if you're talking about, like, I was a libertarian and then I went hardcore Republican, or I was a libertarian and then I went hardcore Democrat, and you're like, what? How does that happen?
I could never vote Democrat or Republican. I did consider going independent for the independent party, but then, I mean, libertarianism. I mean, I've looked into like, it upholds liberty at its core principle and everything, and and with how I've kind of viewed the government in the last few years, I do have to agree with the libertarians that I mean, I do believe I'm very much in favor of maximizing your freedom and autonomy and your freedom of choice and self-ownership. And I don't believe the government has a right to tell you what you can and can't do with your body. I mean, if you're self-harming, then I think that's a different matter. But if it's not hurting anybody, then I don't have a problem with it. But I guess to address the point Mjolnir Man made about the state doesn't have a right. Well, I do believe that if the person has committed the crime, they themselves do not have the right to do it, and that their right to say, hey, you can't execute me, you have no place to do it, falls out the window when they themselves had committed. It's basically a double standard. I actually debated a British anti-capital death penalty opponent, and he said, fine, it's hypocritical. And then I just said, what do you have left? I mean,
I think Max would agree with me here. It has to do with bloodlines, man.
Bloodline?
Bloodline level. The only person who can kill the person who killed someone you related to is a relative.
Okay, so like the victims get to participate. Yeah, so that.
Yeah, HUMANE is an ANCAP, and we did discuss that earlier in the stream. All right,
Yeah.
so let me and like Matt said, if I have a niece and she's 4, and I would lay down my life for her right now if it had to come to that. If any motherfucker in this godforsaken planet were to kill her or do anything fucked up towards her, I'd have no problem going to jail for shooting the person, for harming her. I mean, that's just because I'm, I guess, a somewhat overprotective uncle, but that's just how I roll. Max did look repulsed at me saying that I have no problem shooting somebody, like in a firing squad, if they were to victimize someone in my family. But it's also nice to meet you, Max, as this is the first time we're speaking. Yeah, as we're saying, HUMANE?
Oh, I was about to say, I mean, I can definitely see that situation where somebody has done something to a family member or whatever. Oh, law be damned, man. If they're not, I would definitely take that in my own hands.
See, man, I don't even know this guy's name, but he understands. It's just the way of the streets, dude. Max knows well. I know well. It's the only way it can be done.
His name is HUMANE.
Well, it's not the only. It's not the only way it can be done, but that is kind of the idea behind a system that would be in place under anarcho-capitalism.
Yeah, I actually do agree. I mean, and also, I mean, if the family is wanting the death penalty to be done to this person, I don't think it's asking very much to say, all right, would you yourself do that? I mean, I wouldn't advocate for someone to be put to death if I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah.
I mean.
But that's what I see is a lot of people, like, they want the government to do it, and they want, I want the prison should be doing that, and all these other people should be doing it. It's like, why would you want they will vote for things that they wouldn't do themselves. But they're fine if the IRS does it. They're fine if if our justice system does it. They're fine if our court system do it. But if they were put in the same situation, they wouldn't do it themselves, which is what when I was talking about an anarcho-capitalist system where the victims or the family members of the victim getting a say on what happens in the court case, that's because if they were the actual people carrying out the punishment, they would do it themselves, but it makes more sense to have an institution work on their behalf, because
Max, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I haven't heard very much from you.
So, I'm walking down the street.
Okay.
I'm walking with my little brother, right? I live in Gary, Indiana, armpit of America. So think about this. I'm walking by with my little brother, shit like that. Okay, cool, whatever. A bunch of fucking gangbangers, a bunch of vice lords roll up and try to shoot me up for some shit I did. I don't have any names. So you know what happens? Yeah, I don't get shot. My little brother gets shot in the fucking face. What would you do about that? I would pull a hit, Yeah. I would drive by with a fully loaded gun. I would shoot up all the fucking vice lords I see.
And that's the way it is, man.
Is that justice?
I mean, in my opinion, I do I do believe that it is like I'd have to agree to get to the point, but I mean, at the very least, when the government's doing, they're having to abide by the 8th Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment, among other things. Unlike vigilantism, which is basically what Milner Man and the rest of us are describing here, we don't have to abide by the 8th Amendment. It could be a pretty painful death, but if it's the government that's doing it, they have to abide by the 8th Amendment, which I do not know how we would have, in an ANCAP society, we would have them abide by the 8th Amendment and ensure they abide by the 8th Amendment.
No, so this is something we've been seeing a lot throughout stories in our history, and like you look at so there's Gladiators, a huge movie, and what was the theme behind that? It was justice and it was revenge, and he got his revenge, and everybody's cheering him on, and you're like, but it was vigilante justice, because the only way he could get it. And then there's movies like The Punisher, the movies, and now the Netflix series, The Punisher, and everybody's cheering him on because he's getting justice when justice isn't being done by the system. Let's see, there's Law-Abiding Citizen, A Man Apart, like all of these Taken. It's all the stories of somebody taking the law into their own hand. Taking the law into their own hand. And we cheer that on. And those are like amazing movies that we're like, yes, those are the movies you kind of remember. It's because that's like, it's something primal in delivering justice in a situation like that. So
if I kill,
Yeah. Go ahead, Max.
be honest. If you know, you didn't know me, you didn't ever hear me, you hear on the news, 10 men walking, man killed 10 men, who were walking down the road. Do you think me, hypothetically, do you think I'd get the death sentence?
Depending on the circumstances of it, depends on the context of it. I mean, if it's obviously if it's in self-defense, then no, you wouldn't get the death penalty. If you did it, like if you did it in the course of an underlying crime, which is an aggravating factor, like burglary, robbery, rape, kidnapping, things like that.
With those manslaughter charges, though, I'm sure you'd be up for a while.
In my state, it's like 1 to 15 years is the penalty for manslaughter, which is a second-degree felony. I don't know how it works in Washington State or Indiana, but I heard in Indiana with a just simple murder charge, you can be put up for 45, 90 years or something if you don't get a life sentence or a death penalty, which Indiana is pretty lax on the death penalty.
Catching bodies out there in the GI, man. People get locked up for a while.
Oh.
I killed 10 men. Should I get a life or death penalty? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, I mean, it depends on
I
that.
Wouldn't
10 men
blame
itself
the...
would be.
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry,
well, I'd have to say no, Max, because you're a true homie, and I never put you down.
Well, that's obviously coming from a place of bias. So, HUMANe, what would you say, like in response to the question?
I would say, given that it is a reaction to it is a reaction to a wrong done. So you didn't start it, but you finished it.
Man, you fucked up those vice lords too.
Yeah. In our current situation, you would go to jail. You would probably be tried for manslaughter. You would probably either see the death penalty or life in prison. But anybody else looking at the situation, what? Sorry, what was that? Something about manslaughter.
Manslaughter, you can't get death penalty. Capital murder, you can, of course. I mean,
well,
in the context of it was just a reaction, I'd probably say second-degree murder or aggravated manslaughter, and I would recommend a sentence of like 15 to life in that case, not like a death penalty. I mean, if you meticulously planned it out, like you knew where these 10 men were going to be, and you were going to just shotgun blast them in the face, then yes, I pursue the death penalty. But
if you're okay with the state doing it.
Well, I mean,
one person can prove that they know that that person did it, and they took out vigilante justice. Is it then wrong to charge them for murder?
No, see, that's what I was trying to say is, in our current system, you would be, but I don't agree with that, because I would, like, if anybody else looking at the situation, anybody else is like, dude, if I was in his shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. It's something people whisper to each other, something people, they nudge your shoulder and be like, dude, yeah, I don't blame the guy at all. And then they seek the death penalty, and you're just like, wait a minute. If anybody else in your position would have done the same thing, then why are we holding you to a higher standard? Because, like, this is what I was saying about all of these. There's so many stories of somebody seeking vigilante justice and getting it, and you're like, dude, yeah, awesome. I would have done the exact same thing, right? And yet when somebody does it in real life, we're like, yeah, I would have done the same thing, but they deserve a death penalty. And you're like, what kind of disjointed logic is that?
It's cognitive dissonance. And in Max's case, with what he described, I wouldn't pursue the death penalty. I mean, even though it is still illegal, I can't blame you. I mean, if I were in Max's shoes, which I don't know if your brother is passed or not, but if he has, I'm sorry for your loss and everything. But if your brother's all right, then that's...
Nah, his brother's fine.
Wait, was that a real story?
No, it was a hypothetical. Yeah, it was a hypothetical.
Oh, I thought it was a real story. I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry for that.
No. I don't know. Max probably would have been done in jail by now.
Yeah, he would. I wouldn't know who he is then. But anyway, when it comes to, like, let's say this was a real situation. I don't think I could blame Max at all if he did seek revenge for it. I do think it's hypocritical for them to be all, oh my God, I would have done the same thing. But this person that did the thing I would have done if I were in their shoes, they should get the death penalty anyway. It's totally hypocritical. And there was somebody in the chat who I think brought this up, which I know this is going to get maybe. Let me see where it is. I swear to God, I had something to do with it. Okay, the odd thing is that many people, and this comes from Ryan, can't pronounce the last name, sorry about that, who are anti-capital punishment are also pro-abortion or pro-choice, and there are those who are...
Well, fucking course I'm pro-choice, dude. I mean, like, that thing hasn't even experienced life yet. It's not even gonna know it's dead.
Oh God, that's Humane here is a pro-lifer. Now to read the rest of it, and there are those who are the other way around. I see that as a mixed standard.
It's not even. It's not even like, well, the mixed standard. I mean, you got the right to take somebody's life if they popped your mom in the head.
Down the drain, have an abortion to death.
I mean, with an abortion, at least the thing's never experienced life yet. You know what I'm saying? Even if it is even a human, which I would debate it's not a human at that point, but it has an experience. It's not even going to know it's dead. It has no concept of life or death, dude.
Yeah, so then why would it be okay to end its life? That's my... So I agree with you that if a person has had their life and they have violated the rights of somebody else, they have shown that they cannot get along with society, they have, committed murder or rape or arson, any of those top tier
really
crimes and all that
why?
sort of thing. They've had their chance and they squandered it. But why would you say that? Oh, this person hasn't had a chance yet, so it's okay to stop them from having a chance at all.
I'm gonna be dead ass honest with you, bro. I don't think the Earth can sustain the population it's got right now.
Yeah, okay.
I have to agree with that. I do believe that we are a bit overpopulated. I think 7 billion people is fucking crazy, to be honest.
So I'm gonna thin out the herd by any means necessary. I know it's heartless to say, but it's what I truly believe.
That's so misguided.
Well, I mean, like,
if it wasn't sustainable, we wouldn't be growing. This is
what do you got to say on this, Max? What do you think about abortion?
Okay, about abortion.
Yeah, about abortion, man.
Take a poll. How many times a week do you guys jerk off?
Probably like once a day.
It's a different situation.
That's I don't get the context of this.
No, it's gonna seem weird, but he actually has something.
I get the context of it.
Okay, I don't do that because that's just not my thing. I know you guys are gonna be like, "Oh, bullshit," but whatever.
Yeah, you're a liar. We know it. Everybody, move on to the point.
Either way, go ahead. Go on.
Fucking hear me out, okay?
Yeah.
See, look at this. That's possible to be life. Like a fetus. A fetus is possible to be life. I mean, what is a sperm? Is what creates life. So when you flush that down the drain, aren't you doing the same thing as an abortion?
See, that's where I would contend with you, because a sperm by itself will never become a human. It is only when a sperm
contact the egg.
So, like,
egg.
if
so fertilization
a sperm could become a human, would you be against masturbation?
Yes, if that was the case, if sperm by itself could become a human.
And you're just gonna roll through life without busting a nut? What the fuck's wrong with you, bro?
Some people can. I
but
don't know.
That's not a. That doesn't happen in real life. Yes, if the universe as we know it wasn't the universe as we know it, things would be different. That's if if pigs actually flew, we wouldn't use the phrase "if pigs flew" as something wild and absurd. You're describing a hypothetical scenario that we know cannot happen. Like a sperm by itself cannot turn into a full-fledged human being.
Well, yeah, I mean, Max is obviously posing an alternate reality, but still, if that was the case, I'd still be
if that was the case,
regardless if it created a human or not.
If men could have babies, then men could have babies. That's it doesn't help us in this.
Like Louis C.K. says, he recycles, he does all that stuff, and he also masturbates. I don't see the big deal with it.
Well, wait.
It works to create life.
Wait, I gotta ask you, what's going on?
Hmm?
Yeah.
You said if pigs flew.
That's not what I said.
It was called
swine flu.
Mjolnir man, I do remember I saw your why I'm pro-choice video. It's almost 20 minutes, but I did watch the whole thing, and you said that if it was men who could get pregnant and give birth and everything, that if they wanted an abortion. I think you said that people wouldn't have an issue with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
I stand by that statement, bro.
I mean, for me personally, I just view it as maybe.
Know that?
Well, I'm saying like men are usually seen as like the power structure, and I'm as sexist as fuck, but they're more pragmatic than women. If they don't want a kid, they just get a fucking abortion. Now I know that's hypothetical as fuck, and people are gonna be like, "Well, blah blah blah." If I could get pregnant and I was a man, you know what? But I feel like it'd be more of a thing. You could probably get drive-through abortions in that scenario.
If men could get pregnant, then they wouldn't be men as we know it, because that's the reason for the different gender roles.
Well, yeah, but I was just posing a hypothetical. I mean, I'm not meaning for it to be dug into that level of deepness. I mean, of course, it's not foolproof, but at the same time, it's just...
That would completely change the dynamics of life as we know it. So,
yeah.
The reason women have the role that they do is because they get pregnant, and when they're pregnant, they can't really do as, you know, they can't go out and fight in wars while being pregnant. We're trying to protect them and keep them away from that. So that's why men become the authorities, men become the dominant, men become the protectors.
Sometimes you just got to think outside the box, isn't that right, Max?
Well, okay, so considering the fact, okay. So yeah, considering, okay, so this is something I've been actually meaning to ask Mjolnir Man and HUMANe in different times, but I guess since we're here, which is a good opportunity to bring this up. Okay, so since you both are libertarians, both left and right libertarians, what do you guys believe it is a contradiction to be a libertarian and pro-life or pro-choice? Some people believe it's an oxymoron to be a pro-life libertarian, and some believe it's oxymoronic to be a pro-choice libertarian. Ayn Rand, who Mjolnir Man used to bring up a lot in his pro-libertarianism videos, argued the notion of a fetus as having a right to life is vicious nonsense and stated an embryo has no rights, a child cannot acquire any rights, and until it is born, you have to hide this fucking thing.
Who you calling a libertarian?
Ayn Rand, which
no, she's not technically a libertarian. She's an objectivist.
People, I remember Mjolnir Man was like, "Oh, people think we worship Ayn Rand or something." So that's the only reason I found her name in the first place.
She's highly associated with libertarianism, but she was technically an objectivist and not politically active as far as didn't have an allegiance to any one particular party.
Oh, okay. That's the same with Mjolnir Man. He's no longer like a part of any party. He's like maybe he could create Mjolnirism. Maybe for his own party.
Nah, I'm gonna call it the Drifters.
Well, if you follow Ayn Rand and you are an objectivist, there is a new political party from Mark Pellegrino, I forget his name, but yeah, called the American Capitalist Party, I think, or is it the Objective Capitalist Party or something like that?
Anymore, I don't follow Ayn Rand anymore because I'm not like that anymore. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, all right, so...
as far as politically speaking.
Yeah, all right, so I found a paragraph which Capitalism Magazine supports pro-choice position writing. A fetus does not have a right to be in the womb of any woman, but is there by her permission. This permission may be revoked by the woman at any time. Okay, this part I disagree with. I do believe at a certain point we should cut it off. I don't believe that we should... I mean, like, late-term abortions I am opposed to. I'm just going to put that out there, because her womb is a part of her body. There's no such thing as the right to live inside the body of another. There's no right to enslave. A woman is not a breeding pig owned by the state or church. Even if a fetus were developed to the point of surviving as an independent being outside the pregnant woman's womb, the fetus would still not have the right to be inside the woman's womb. Well, I guess you can revoke the right when the thing is born and you can just let the thing live. But that I'm not going to lie. That was kind of bluntly put, but either way. Yeah. Pro-choice on everything Libertarian Party. All right, so that's from the November 12th of 1989, so almost 30 years ago. Wow. What are you guys' thoughts on the quote here? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do find some parts of it disagreeable. On some parts, I can find it agreeable. Go ahead.
As far as I'm concerned, the woman made her choice when she decided to have sex, because that's the that is a possibility, a possible outcome of having sex. So I don't understand how the fetus doesn't have a right. Well, the woman, by engaging in the act of sex, which is sexual reproduction, that's something I've been saying since I was in like middle school. I don't understand people saying, "Oh, it's just sex. It's just sex." It's like, well, sex is short for sexual reproduction. The primary focus is not to get off, is not to feel good. It's to reproduce. That is the primary reason why penises go in vagina and orgasm. It's
did you evil heteronormative evil whites?
that is the purpose of sex. And so by engaging in that. Yeah. By engaging in that and thinking that the primary function of sex is not going to occur is just pure stupidity. It's like, oh, I'm going to go and have sex and oh, what is this baby thing? How did that happen? And you're like, do you not understand that it's the primary goal of that action is to create a baby? So it's a very stupid position to think that you're going to have sex without that being a pretty dominant outcome of that action. So that's where I say her choice in the matter ends at conception, because, like, hey, this is what you chose to engage in, knowing that was an outcome, knowing that was the primary outcome.
I mean, for me personally, and this is just me. If I got a girl pregnant, I'm going to take responsibility. I think, and this is just how I've realized I am as a person. If I were to find out I'm going to be a father, I'm not saying almost immediately, but I think I'd pretty quickly grow some attachment to the baby. Yeah. So I would never, and I would also never force a woman to make the choice. Like I leave it up to her. Like if she says I want to keep the kid, I'm not going to complain. And also, if she wants to abort it, I mean, even though I'd be pissed as fuck about it, I mean, I'd still leave it up to her to decide. If it's because if it's threatening her life, because I think for girls that are pretty young that get pregnant, it does create some health risks. If it's because of that, then all right, I can see that. I do value the life of the mom over the fetus any day of the week. If it's the life of the mother.
That's why, if you know that is a possibility, that's why you only engage in sex with a woman that you know is going to see things the way that you are. Like, that she wants to have a child. You know, if she gets pregnant, then she's not going to terminate that. Because if that is your values, those are you want to be with somebody who shares that value. Why would you even engage in that activity with somebody who's like, oh, if I ever get pregnant, I'm aborting it? And you're like, but what that's my kid? I would like to have that kid. Now, you don't get a say, and it's like, well, then why did you engage in sexual activity with the person who holds an extreme view that is so far opposite to your own? Like, it may be the case that she was telling you the entire time she wanted to have a kid, and then she gets pregnant, and now all of a sudden she changes her mind. That's a different story. I don't know if there is a way to avoid that, but a good way to avoid a situation where there is that conflict is to not engage in a relationship with someone who has that conflicting view. If if you're both pro-abortion or whatever, and she gets pregnant, okay, that's exactly what you guys wanted to do, is go have an abortion. So then it makes sense for the whole sex act. But it doesn't make any sense to me to be like, well, we had sex and I had no idea what her stance on abortion was. I had no idea if she wanted to keep my kid. I have no idea what the outcome is. Like, then why did you engage in that in the first place? That's idiocy.
To Mjolnir Man, I'd like to bring this up. This is a point Humane and me and some other pro-lifers and pro-choicers were conversing in my last Thursday stream. It was the fact that Humane brought up that abortion is not consequence-free, if you get what I'm saying, on the woman's physical health and probably mental health, but I don't know. I'd have to look into that further. At least physical health, at minimum physical health.
Well, I mean, that's a simple answer, bro. Only the strongest mental women get the abortions.
Well, I guess we'll focus on the physical health here. That it does leave an impact, like a toll on her body, physically speaking, and it might affect her ability to have children. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to look into that further, those claims further. But
it's the more abortions that a woman has, the less likely she is to be able to become pregnant. It increases the risk of complications during pregnancy, and it lowers the chance of actually becoming pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if she's making that choice beforehand, she needs to weigh all that into account. So maybe she should have the kid. Who knows? But if she's making that choice, she knows what she's getting into.
I do believe that no matter what choice she chooses...
I just said she should know all that beforehand, but I don't think that's the case. I think most of these people
That's
are
what did you
told
grow
a
up
lie.
with?
Well, if they don't, they don't. But they
hang
should
on.
get learned if they want.
Hang on a second, Max.
Okay.
You were trying to. You're.
Yeah.
What did you need to say?
Did you grow up in a poor household?
Yes, I.
I'm gonna go get a beer real quick, boys. I'll be right back.
Alrighty. To be honest, yes, I did. I do consider it to like lower middle class household.
Was your mom 16?
No, she was in her. She was she's. I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And
How
your
old
audio.
was your parents when they had you?
Okay, my father was 41. He was 39, and my mother was 35.
Whew.
It was actually born a couple days before her
Okay.
birthday. So go ahead.
Imagine this.
Hmm
Well,
I'm not a pro-lifer, by the way. Just,
in,
you know.
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Chicago or something, right?
Okay.
I'm in.
16 years old,
Go ahead.
on welfare. Father broke his
And I am back, bitches.
Go ahead,
right?
Max.
No education. Is that fair to the child?
I do.
What?
To
Church.
I don't. I wouldn't believe that would be fair to the. Okay, your audio is pretty low. So could you? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Could you repeat that one more time? Just one more time. Repeat
Yeah,
that.
it's
I'm gonna mute everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute everybody
Mute
just
everybody.
so we can hear Max's lovely voice. Take it away, Max.
Oh, thank you. Like, if the parent knows that the kid is going to be born into a hellhole, why the fuck does she have to keep that kid in that hellhole? You know what I'm saying? Like, shit. If she knows he's going to grow up poor as fucking dirt, won't be able to, feed him, buy him clothing. So therefore, she can't buy him clothing or food. So this kid's going to get picked on every single fucking day in school. Kid might even commit suicide by high school. Is that fair to the kid?
No, but I guess if I have to play devil's advocate here, because I guess I'll do that just to see how I could at least argue from the other side. You could put the kid up for adoption. There's always the alternatives. I do believe that we should always seek alternatives to things like before we say, oh no, we just got to go with this one thing. I think we should always look at the wider picture and see, all right.
But then you got to take into account how long that kid's gonna be in that orphan home.
That's true.
And a lot of those orphan kids come out pretty fucked up.
Yeah, but so
Okay.
So the situation
parents can
is she got pregnant when she can't afford to have a kid because she's a terrible person who only considers herself and not the futures of those that she supposedly loves.
I think that's stretching it a little bit far, my man, but keep going.
No, so if she decided to engage in activity that
Don't people
created
make
a
mistakes.
life,
You know what? Okay,
Yeah,
some
I
people
get
get a little
people make
intoxicated and they
mistakes.
fuck with other guys. No big
Yeah,
deal. They should
and
do what the fuck
that
they like
is
to
the
do if they want.
problem. That is the
Sorry,
problem.
I just needed one person at a time. Sorry,
right.
just one at a time.
So
Go ahead.
So he was talking about people get drunk and they make stupid mistakes, and that is the problem. Is that people don't put enough priority or enough responsibility when they're engaging in these sorts of things, and you're giving them they just made a mistake, and it's like, well, they just made a mistake, and you're saying that to solve that mistake, they're going to end the life of their child, and that's the remedy. That's the thing that I'm seeing here is because people have put so little weight on the life of an unborn child.
Yeah. The other man, you're muted, by the way. I forgot to bring that up. Yeah, you're muted just so I could hear because it was starting to flicker up my end, and I'm like, I don't want this hangout to get fucked up or anything.
Yeah.
So just go ahead.
So I'm gonna say one last thing so from my perspective, the problem isn't that the child is going to have a terrible life. The problem is that the parents aren't getting educated on, hey, you need to be more responsible with what you're doing. Stop going around sleeping with everybody you meet. Stop getting drunk and having, orgies and all this, all this that is the problem. The problem isn't the poor situation. The problem is the poor decisions to begin with.
Yeah. All right, Mueller man, you can go ahead with what you had to say. I don't know if I don't know if he realizes he's muted or not.
Ahead, unmute him for himself.
I can't.
I'm unmuted.
All right.
So you're just gonna punish someone for making that stupid mistake. I mean, even if they're fucking drunk or not, it's still a fucking stupid mistake. So if it's just a punishment, how are they gonna fucking love that kid in the first place? You can't force someone to love something. It's got to be fucking planned, dude.
I think you're misunderstanding me. I didn't say the kid was the punishment. I'm saying they need to be responsible.
Well, in that scenario, it would be the fucking punishment, bro.
Relax. Let's take a deep breath here.
So removing consequences from them completely is your solution. To say, hey, you can do whatever you want and there are no consequences. How does that only encourages a situation where people,
I don't think people... I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
was like, that only encourages situations where people will go out drinking and make stupid mistakes because apparently the consequences are pretty minimal or non-existent. That only encourages that type of behavior. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of misery.
All right. So, hang on, I was just gonna check the chat on my phone, but anyway, so the chat's pretty much dead. Yeah, but either way. So as you were gonna say, Mjolnir Man, before you let him continue. As you were gonna say.
Anyways, fuck, I don't even remember what I was gonna say. To be honest with you.
Well, that's all right.
Oh wait, no, actually, I do remember what I was gonna fucking say. It's not like I don't think people are going out getting drunk to have a kid the next day. So I don't know. It's probably just a one-off mistake. I'm sure that person will probably be wiser in the future with that shit to begin with.
Well, let's also
say like
let's take into consideration.
So what's Max got on this? Max hasn't spoken in a while. What do you think, Max?
Bring it on, boy. Come on, Max. Tell us.
Okay. So you're saying shit like, okay, don't get drunk and have kids. Okay, that's cool. Ever heard of date rape? That's something. Well, no, just keep listening.
Well, yeah.
So you've heard of date rape, right?
Mm-hmm. Rohypnol.
What do you think fucking happens when a chick gets raped and the dude's going bareback?
Well, in my opinion, in the case of rape, I'm very much pro-choice, very, very strongly pro-choice, because, look, I know Humane's going to completely disagree as I say this. I do view the kid as a punishment in that case. If she keeps the kid, like if she's forced to keep the kid, like if she decides I'm going to keep the kid regardless, I'm totally fine with that. But I do view it as it's going to be really hard to love the kid if you were forced to bring that kid into this world. And imagine how loved that kid's going to feel.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you
forced to bring a kid into the world and abort it.
Well, have you actually seen the statistics on rape victims and how was it 70% of them choose to keep their child? So I don't know why you're of this opinion that it is a burden upon the mother and it is an absolute misery.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, man, like if you get fucking raped, that kid could be a constant reminder for the rest of her fucking life that she got raped.
Yeah.
I mean, for those that do abort the kid, I'm pretty sure.
So talking about living PTSD here.
I get you. I understand that position, but you're talking. So the number of actual rapes that occur a year, and the number of actual pregnancies that result in, the number of rapes that result in pregnancies, and then the number of pregnancies, or rape pregnancies, where the mother chooses to end the life of the child is a very small number every year. So I disagree with that on a moral position. But if that becomes the legal standard, I have no way of actually fighting that because it seems like there is enough of a disagreement on that, and I don't think we're ever going to find a objective standard for that particular view because it is so highly tied into people's emotions. I think there is an objective standard, and I think I'm on the right on that. But as far as convincing other people of that, I don't think I will unless people change their entire views of life in general.
Yeah, and speaking of emotions, I'd just like to bring up this stream's been full of different emotions from laughter to anger. As you're going to say, Max?
Sorry.
Okay. It's legal to smoke marijuana there, isn't it?
Hell fucking yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In my state, it's not because we're infested with Mormons.
In my state, it's a fucking automatic 3-month penalty, dude.
And how did you not get
your state is also stupid.
Indiana and Utah are way behind the times. Go ahead.
The 219, though, I love it to my heart and back.
Okay.
You can't smoke marijuana in Indiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do people still smoke marijuana in Indiana? Yes.
Yes.
Of course they do. They get those dub sacks of G7 on the spot, dude.
People still do it in Utah as well. I mean, I mean, I think it's a third-degree felony, and you get 5 years for it. But people
let
are.
him finish.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What happens when you make abortion illegal?
It goes underground.
People are going to jump the border to
yeah.
Canada and get abortions, bro. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or back alley abortions where they take the coherent fucking damage your cervix for life.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Going back to the reproductive, don't you think that a home done abortion is gonna be a lot more dangerous than a professionally done one?
And okay, so my position on this is, from my perspective, life starts at conception, and so this person who is getting the back alley abortion is basically trying to commit murder, and you're saying, oh, well, what if the person trying to commit murder gets injured in the process?
Though. That fucking thing ain't sentient yet, my guy.
I understand you, but that's from your perspective. From my perspective, I'm saying that life begins at conception, in which case, if life begins at conception, this person is trying to commit murder. From your perspective, they're not trying to commit murder. I understand that. But your position is not inherently the correct position. You haven't proven that, and it's been a debate for 60+ years or more in the United States. So
in your eyes, abortion is murder any way you look at it. Illegal.
Yes, legalized murder, and that's my problem with it.
Okay,
legalized fucking murder.
That's what I think abortion is. Sorry, go ahead, Max.
I'll just go along with it.
Do you want to put all these women in jail?
Yeah, I mean, think of the fucking tax burden, bro.
Yeah, I get you, but okay, so if that is a situation, then yes, because they're trying to commit murder. I want to put any murderer in a jail or to have them see some kind of justice.
Okay. Just to bring up for context, like the whole reason I brought this up was, people have conversed on whether or not it's a contradiction to be pro-choice, but against the death penalty, because people would say, okay, where do you define life to be sacred?
When it's fucking born. That's when I define it sacred, bro. Yeah. If you want me to be honest.
One more time.
I'm just curious, because I'm pro-choice as well, but I'm just like, because I've heard pro-lifers bring up, if you're against the death penalty, how come you're pro-choice and shit like that? And I mean, it is one I've been thinking about for about over 8 months now, almost, of where I stand with the whole being pro-choice. And well, I'm pro-choice and pro-capital punishment. So in my case, I guess I'm not contradicting. There's no way I could contradict myself, as I view it. As long as it's not done late term, I don't have a problem with it. As long as it's not my kid, I don't have a problem with it. As long as the person's proven guilty of a crime, I don't have a problem with it. If it was my relative, I definitely wouldn't have a problem with it. Do you guys believe, in your opinions, that it's a contradiction to be pro-choice but against the death penalty, or pro-life and for the death penalty?
So, in my case, I don't think it's contradictory to be pro-choice and for the death penalty, because, as the other guy said multiple times, it's my view, but I don't think life is sacred until it's born. That's what I believe. So you can get abortion anytime between then, or the fetus can die anytime between that, because it's not going to even have any concept of reality. So at that point, I don't think it's really... I have a problem with the state taking someone's life. I don't care if a blood relative goes out and smokes the motherfucker. That's what I believe.
Okay. That's just. I'm glad that we got a clarification there. So, HUMANe, do you believe it?
What do you think, Max? What do you think, Max?
Go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
Max, go.
Yeah, I got some input on this shit.
Go for it.
This dude said that any murderer should be put in prison.
They should have justice. Yeah.
How do we obtain freedom? War. Murder. If you kill somebody, is that still murder? Yes, technically it is. Okay, what is freedom? We have the freedom to abort kids. So wait,
what?
The people murdering for your freedom.
I'm a little lost here.
What this is?
Okay.
This is a bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a bit lost here.
Yeah, so I was with you up until you said the freedom to abort. That is not a natural right.
No,
of course, it is a natural right. Fuck. Ignorant.
It is a legal right, not a natural right. Okay, sorry.
It's natural.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ignorant.
So think about this. Your freedoms.
Sorry, did I miss something?
Where does freedom come from?
Freedom comes from natural rights.
Max, you gotta put the microphone up to your lips a little bit more.
Yeah.
Who fights for your rights?
I do. Because if I don't,
fights
no
for
one
your
else will.
rights?
The small
Military does.
Ayn Rand, the smallest minority is the individual. That's,
Do you think
yeah.
the military does?
I was in the military, so I know the military is supposed to protect us, and doing a pretty shitty job of it.
Man, I gotta say though, I know this is really off topic, but you look like my former trumpet instructor. When I Are you from any case from Missouri?
Yeah, I am, or at least sort of.
Do
yeah.
you live in the 219?
No, I don't live in Missouri at the moment.
No, I'm not talking about Missouri. I'm talking about Indiana, my guy.
Oh, I don't live in Indiana.
Oh,
Yeah,
never
yeah.
mind.
Yeah. Wait,
Then you look
Max,
like a good doppelganger then.
Milner man. So
Okay,
you and Max are in Indiana.
Yeah.
We're about what do you say, Max? Like 30 minutes away from each other? Probably like 23.
What's this?
Yeah, but are you both in
Yeah, what's
Indiana?
that CCXIX to me, my guy? That's a 219. That's that fucking crew.
All right, as you're about to
Okay.
say, Max, like when.
Oh yeah, my God.
What?
All right.
He's in chronic stasis, and we need to get him to full crew mode.
All right. So
My crew, I
Yeah,
stay true.
okay.
Don't question my convictions.
Okay,
Don't question
so I
my
think you were on a line of reasoning, and so let's see if we can pick up where that left off.
all right,
so
go ahead.
Okay,
You're talking
back
about
where we left
natural
off.
rights here, or freedoms. Sorry, freedoms.
What does the military do, or supposedly does? They
It's
fight for
supposed to
freedom.
Yes, it's supposed to protect us from invading forces, from
But
from
it
other
ain't.
countries.
It ain't.
Well,
It's policing and doing bullshit.
Military?
Prior military, 8 years in the Air Force.
Oh, yeah, you said you were part of the military, right?
Yeah,
He was a
8
part of the-
8 years
yeah,
U.S.
yeah,
Air
yeah.
Force.
Yeah.
You must have done really good in
in
school.
Then.
Sorry, Max, I
We play-
can't hear.
We play dodgeball against the Vietnamese.
No, I didn't play dodgeball.
No, we didn't. You know what we did? We fucking murdered them. We put fucking rounds in their fucking faces.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
cold
okay.
ass
No, I didn't
savages,
do any
my
of
guy.
that, but yeah, that.
No, but us
But the
as a
military
citizen-
did, yes.
So, hold on. These dudes are fighting for our freedoms. You do have the freedom to abort.
No, Vietnam, Korea, and pretty much all major wars were not fighting for our freedoms. That was the excuse. That wasn't actually what they were doing.
Well, yeah, I'd have to agree with
I'm
him
aware, I just
with
use it as
that.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think Max got a tangent going here, but I want to listen.
I
Yeah.
think I kind of understand your position here.
It wasn't. I used Vietnam as a,
Yeah.
It's just-
So in the case where, if it was a war where someone was attacking us, so let's go to back to the Revolutionary War, because that was a legitimate war. It started off as a revolution, so it wasn't them attacking us to begin with. That was us saying, hey, leave us alone. You don't get to tell us what to do. Then they attacked us, and we defended ourselves. So in that case, people were killing each other, but that is not murder. Not just because it wasn't a war, but because it was a war of self-defense.
Yeah, war self-defense.
Remember you saying kills. Anybody who kills?
No.
No, in self-defense, it's justified. It's justified because it's in self-defense. Like, if I attacked Mjolnir Man for being able to wear a ponytail better than I can, and he takes his bong and he beats me to death with it, or his buddy Max stabs me in the face and I die.
I fucking smoke you, motherfucker. Blast you in the fucking head.
Yeah. Then I seriously hope that was not a real one, because
It-
that was very, very no trigger control, no gun safety.
And either way,
I'm fucking kill! I'm in the shoot and fucking kill, nigga!
Jesus
Okay.
Christ. Anyway, back to the point. I mean, Mjolnir Man would be defending himself, and if
Yeah.
Max were to do it instead, he would be defending a third party defending a third party, which he'd be justified in all states in the union have something of stand your ground laws.
We have the castle doctrine. We can even kill a cop who's acting out of line out here in Indiana.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I love
that.
Yeah, it's hard to be honest. It is an interesting topic when it comes to
the blessed land.
It's hard. In some cases, it's like, is the cop ever wrong? But anyway, back to so to answer your buddy's question, no, it's not murder in the case of self-defense.
What do you got to say in response to that, Max?
Yeah, since Vietnam and Korea were definitely wars of aggression on our part. I guess it's very, very nuanced, because you could say that North Korea invaded South Korea, and so then we were using violence in defense of South Korea, but it's a very difficult position to actually hold. And same thing could be said for Vietnam. It's like, oh, North Vietnam invaded South Vietnam, and we were trying to defend, but there are so many factors in there where it's very difficult to tell if that was a truly defensive war. I see it as a aggressive war on our part in both cases.
Definitely. I have to agree with you on that. At least we can agree on one thing. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, out of all the things we've talked about, so that is something I have to agree with both of you on. So pretty much that's
It's like one big hug, circle.
Sorry, what?
What, Max is gonna say something.
No, if I walked up to S-Man, I started verbally attacking him.
Well, then he's got to verbally attack you back, and he's got to
verbally attack. That's a false equivalency.
It's gonna be a yo mama.
You're cutting him off. You're cutting my boy Max off. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead, Max. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Keep on talking shit. He finally hits me. His ass out breaking his jaw. Who's gonna be in trouble?
That would be me, because I threw the first punch.
Even though it was self-defense.
Wait, what?
Oh,
because you antagonized it?
That part I will say. Oh, okay. In the case of, I'm
military defending themselves if we're shipping ourselves out there. That's ludicrous, man. We're not defending ourselves if we're shipping ourselves out there.
We ain't
defending ourselves would be
no. It's not defending ourselves. It's defending others, because you can use violence in defense of yourself or in defense of others. So if my niece is being attacked by a guy in a ski mask and a machete, and we're like, oh, well, it's not me, so I can't do anything.
That can only be done if you're the friend of somebody, and the bloodline member says, yo, you want to go on a ride with me?
Well, that's of your guys' stance.
Well, it's not just a bloodline member. This is something.
Oh, no. It's got to be bloodline.
Right.
Wait, so you can only defend people if they share blood with you? So if I walking down the street and I see a woman being attacked by a dude, he's just punching the shit out of her. I can't step in and do anything? No, I'm just gonna.
No, man.
It's not me. It's not my family.
No. You're in the hood, boy. You got to mind your own business, or else you're gonna get your fucking wig split.
Jesus Christ. Indiana, wig split means your head.
Yeah, no, I understood that. That's
okay.
And you fucking bleed out like a stuffed pig. That's what's up.
That's ridiculous.
Tell about that, Max. Tell him about getting the wig split.
Oh God. Tell us about the wig getting split, man.
Wait, Indiana? Are these guys legit? What kind of gang violence is going up in corn country?
Oh, this ain't the corn country, boy. You're part of the Chicago metropolitan area.
Oh, wait, boy.
Okay, so you Chicago, gotcha. So I guess you guys are close to the border there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Max, give him a fucking insight real quick, my guy.
Yeah, odds are if you do something in Chicago, if you try to help somebody else out, you're gonna get your ass kicked.
Wait, but I want to hear from Max.
Austin,
go ahead, Max.
Austin, what do I do to Nazis?
You fucking kick their ass. Red laces get you dead. You know what it is.
I have to agree with the idea of punching Nazis a little bit, but that's for another time. Yeah.
Have you actually met a Nazi?
We've met multiple Nazis.
The Milner man here is Jewish, actually.
Were you doing this with a time machine, or are you talking about neo-Nazis?
We're talking about
Neo-Nazis.
neo-Nazis for
Okay.
information.
All right. Now,
Yeah, back.
and were they actual neo-Nazis or were they just white
If they wear
nationalists?
red laces, bro, they're fucking Nazis. What don't you understand about Doc Marten boots? Yellow's good, black is neutral, red is bad, dude.
You don't know
So
nothing, man.
so everybody knows
Tell-
this, and so
tell
there's
him,
no,
Mac,
there's no
tell him.
possible situation where a guy could buy Doc Martens and think that red laces look good, and then just walk around and then just get the shit beat out of him.
That's the fucking
Oh.
price they pay, bro. It doesn't matter. They can't go
You know
around and
what I
explain
said,
to everybody,
man.
I'm not a Nazi, I just think red laces look good. No, that's fucking historically and culturally a fucking Nazi thing to throw some red fucking laces on your Doc Martens. So if you fucking do that thinking it's looking good, don't fucking expect your ass to not get fucking wig split. Now my boy Max though knows a lot about this. Go ahead, Max.
He knows my saying. Lessons not learned in blood will soon be forgotten. That'll teach them to lace their boots with red. Okay.
All right.
So I
They'll start lacing their boots with yellow.
Seven Nazis since June.
So
Oh yeah.
Little living
And he
fucking
goes in.
clown. A skinhead is not a Nazi. Skinhead is a subculture. Skinhead started in 1969.
mhm.
Many skinheads were originally black. Fun fact. Neo-Nazis stole skinhead culture because they thought it looked tough.
Oh, yeah, it's
That's when you get to Philadelphia and Boston too, by the way. It ain't even like it is in New York. You'll see a lot of black skinheads in New York. But I'll let Max take it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Sharp, skinhead against racial prejudice. Sharps did what Antifa tries to do, but the difference is we don't mask up. If I see a neo-Nazi walking around, yes, I am gonna scream
Hey,
outside.
do you guys want to have a stream next week where we focus exclusively on the idea, or if you guys just want to settle it here, we can settle it here about the ethics of punching Nazis. I used to be staunchly against it because I
The
viewed it
ethics
as
of punching Nazis are fucking great. I don't care what I said back in January. You fucking knock those motherfuckers out. I don't give a fuck anymore.
I used to be in the same position Milner Man was in. So
okay.
okay, here's the thing, right? I used to be staunchly against it. I viewed it as violence against people who have hypothetical violence. But at the same time, I think even Hitler said himself that if he would have had physical resistance, I'm going to be butchering the quote because that's how metal I am, maybe he would have been stopped or something. I'll try and see the quote if I can find a direct quote.
All right, but I normally try to keep these about an hour and a half, and we're pushing on the 2 hour mark, and this has gone way off topic, but it's interesting stuff.
Actually, do you guys want to have another stream for this another time?
So
yeah,
I think we should start.
What, you can't debate all night, man?
I
You
can't
can't do that?
Some of us have jobs in school.
Yeah, in my case, it's school.
Some of us fucking work too. Max fucking works in that school too. You can't do a fucking all-night stream? I can wake up drunk as fuck and still go to work. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Because my work is not a brain dead something or other that I can go to half-assed. I need.
You think fucking working on cars is half-assed? Oh, I see what you mean.
No, if
Max
it's
fucking works on landscaping. He's got to cut the head just right. If
That's
he
not what
does
he
it, he's
said.
fucked up. So you're saying you can't go in fucked up on my liquor. I see what you're saying.
That's not what he said.
assume that I do some half-assed job.
I'm not saying that you do a half-assed. Okay, sorry, I may have misstated that. What I meant was, I've been in jobs where you can go on autopilot, and you're so used to doing it every day that you can kind of do it without even thinking about it. That's why you can go to work drunk or stoned or whatever, because you don't have to put the My job is entirely cerebral, so it is entirely new things every day, and I can't just copy and paste or put.
So
myself
wouldn't
on
being
autopilot.
stoned make you better at your job then?
What?
I mean, if you smoke a good sativa, my man, you're gonna be great at the job. So why don't you smoke on the job?
Oh boy!
entirely
I don't smoke anything, but what?
Anyway, like, I do believe this has gone up.
It's logic and problem solving, which if you're stoned, you're usually worse at because it's an inhibitor.
Yeah, Anyway, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up here. Milner Man, if you want to come back next week, we can converse on the ethics.
No, it's gonna be Milner Max and or Mjolnir Man and Max, the Mjolnir Max. That's what it's gonna be, bro.
You guys can come back next week.
Absolutely.
I host these. Every
I'll come
Thursday
back.
at around 6
We'll come
p.m.
back better than ever, bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys are
Alright.
pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think this will be an
We're just some hood savages. That's all.
Yeah. All right. This is
Yeah,
where I'm wrapping this up.
surprisingly pretty well thought out. At least your positions. You know.
Yes, Mjolnir Man. Thank you for joining us. And and
You better thank Max too, though. He's the true guest of the show.
are you drinking, Max? Are you
I
drinking
don't
off?
know what he's doing, but that's.
I think he's busting it up. But anyway, that's all for this one, guys. And until next time.
Max does what he wants to do. You know what it is.
Right?
He's jerking off right now, dude. What of it?
Okay, no thanks. I don't want that on my
He doesn't
stream.
fucking care. He doesn't give a shit.
I just muted.
YouTube.
Is there a way to-
Oh my god.
I can turn off the camera.
Max!
Motherfucker.
My boy's busted a nut!
All right, I'm
Fucking
gonna.
neo-Nazi.
Oh, we're off.
Yeah.
We off air.
Yeah. Yeah. We're off air. The moment I saw him doing that, I'm like,
Okay.
that's enough.